Hey my good friends, Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I've been spending the week with the all-new 2018 Honda Odyssey minivan. It's got more power, more gears, more tech features, and of course, it's been redesigned inside and out. So I'm going to give you a really close look at it. We're going to take it for a test drive, and I'm going to tell you what it's really like to live with. We're going to start with the interior here because, well, this is a minivan. This is where the action is. This is what you buy a minivan for, because you're going to be living in this thing, whether it be long trips or just carrying your family around or just going out and having fun with your friends. Bottom line is, this is the place that has to be right. So to start out with, right up front here, we've got an all-new dash design, very high quality materials, something I expect from Honda now. They've been known, in my opinion, for quite a long time as having some of the best interiors in the business, and this doesn't disappoint at all. We've got very high quality materials, genuine materials here, and being in the Elite, we've got a full list of options and creature comforts here. And to start out with, I've got leather seats that are both heated and ventilated up front. They're power adjustable. I find them to be quite comfortable. There's fold down armrests here, so you can have that armrest and sort of relax and get comfortable in here. The seating position, very typical of a minivan. You're sitting well back behind the windshield and you've got a nice view out, but you don't of course see the hood. The steering wheel here is leather on this particular model, and ahead of it is a fully digital instrument cluster, something we're starting to see in other Hondas. The center screen up there is completely customizable for any number of information sets via the steering wheel controls. It's very easy to use and the graphics are very good. When it comes to storage and versatility, again, this is a minivan. That's what you expect here. And so what we've got here in the center console is something a little bit different than you find in a lot of vehicles. And we'll start first down here low. We've got a nice big storage area down there that you can put a purse, you can put a carrier for soda, you can put any number of things down there, or a small bag from the grocery store even. You've got charging ports down there as well. Here on the center console, I've got cup holders right here where they're easy to reach. On this particular model, I've got the wireless phone charger right here on top, so you can just lay your phone down right there. And then we have the roll top here for the center area. Now this roll top's got a smooth finish here, so crumbs, things like that aren't going to get lodged in there and something you have to look at forever. But when you slide that open, you've got a very large area down here, plenty of space for lots of bottles of water, things, whatever gear you happen to carry down there, you're probably not going to be short of any space for it. And then there's extra cup holders back here as well. It's very simple looking and it's just very elegant in the way it's designed. Your rear passengers are going to find plenty of space back here because, well, this is a minivan. It's what you'd expect here. So to start out with, as you can see, there's plenty of legroom. I have a lot of headroom here, and the seating position is actually very good. It's high enough off the floor that it feels comfortable and it feels natural. Now you've also got a lot of adjustment back here. I've got a slide adjustment as well as a back rake adjustment, and so you can really find a comfortable spot back here. This has a removable center section here. First of all, you can fold this down and you've got an armrest here with cup holders, storage for your devices, a whole 9 yards, but you can also remove it. Once you get the center armrest and seat assembly out of the way, you can then experience what they call the magic slide seats. Basically, you can adjust these any number of different ways. Both seats slide independently very easily. You can put them here, you can go all the way to the side, you can put them both in the center. Basically, it allows you to configure this vehicle any way you want it, for center access to that third row or side access, or simply moving them out of the way so people can get in and out. But it's sort of a neat feature because it allows you to configure the van if you've got a trip, if you're packaging this thing a certain way, you want your kids next to each other, whatever it is, it's a pretty slick feature. Third row space back here is actually pretty good. Legroom, very good. The floor, a lot of space down there for your feet. Because this rear suspension's been redesigned this year, they were able to free up some space back here. So we've got 3 across seating back here. Real adults can sit back here, although 3 across would be a bit of a tight squeeze. And there's a lot of amenities back here. We have headphone jacks here. Even though we have wireless headphones for that entertainment system up there, we have jacks back here on both sides with volume controls. There's power outlets back here, and there's air vents along with cup holders. There's actually sunshades here for these rear windows, as well as those windows up there on the second row. So for the most part, everything your second row passengers have, your third row passengers have as well. This seat right here folds down in a 60-40 split. It actually goes back into the rear floor area so that you've got a perfectly flat load floor back there. The seats up here in the second row, unlike some minivans where they fold and stow away in the floor or they fold and tumble, these actually have that magic slide feature as we talked about, so they don't actually fold all the way out of the way. You can remove those, although it is a bit of a lift job to get those things out. What Honda tells me is that the reason they didn't go all the way to do the stow and go seating or some of those other solutions that other minivans do offer is simply that they say their customers were really more concerned about comfort and versatility back here. Now, because they can be removed, you can still go to the home store and get plywood, things like that, furniture, whatever. You just have to take those seats out manually. Behind the third row is a lot of storage, and we'll start out with the fact that when the seats are up, you've got a really nice deep well back there that you can really stack up a lot of luggage, a lot of equipment, a lot of gear, even without starting to put those seats down. Also in the Elite here, we've got the built-in vacuum cleaner. Now, Honda was the first to offer this, and it's just a really cool feature. Now it's starting to be something you see in other minivans, but it has a very long hose, so you can actually vacuum out your boat that's behind the van. When it comes to rating this interior, I'm very pleased. Obviously, we've got a lot of versatility, the highest quality materials in class, I think, and we've got a lot of comfort going on no matter where you sit in this van. Interior gets 5 out of 5 stars. The infotainment technology here, of course, is top of the line for Honda, and it's their latest, greatest version of their touchscreen audio navigation and entertainment system. And basically, one of the biggest things they've really added recently is a volume knob, and that's because a lot of people complain that the slide controls, both on the steering wheel and the previous touch slide controls here, were just too difficult to use. So props to Honda for adding that. Hard controls in addition to a touchscreen are always a good thing, especially when you have so many features to mow through. I would say that a tuning knob would now be a nice thing because you still have buttons you have to press and they're not always immediate tuning. You've got stored channel lists and things like that, that it just makes it sometimes difficult to navigate if you're just getting in the vehicle and you're trying to tune stations. It's just a lot easier to twist a knob than it is to hunt and peck through menus and have to really sort of work at simply tuning numbers on a station. So there's that. Outside of that, a great system. Graphics are very good. Visibility, for the most part, very good. You do have a screen here that's very shiny, so in some light you do get a lot of glare, but the menus and the graphics really overcome that for the most part. Using the hard controls that are here, it is a blessing, specifically the HVAC controls, fan controls, right below that screen. They work very good. The navigation on this also very good, and you have voice controls. Feature content, very good. You have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto connectivity, as well as Bluetooth, and you've got the ability to plug in with your USB as well. Controls also here on the steering wheel for major audio, and it's a pretty good sounding system, I have to say, especially with all the speakers that this has in such a large vehicle. That is a commendable thing. The rear seat entertainment system back here is very innovative and very comprehensive. Not only do you have the DVD and Blu-ray player, but you've got the HDMI port I've talked about before, but you've also got streaming media, and you can tap that with the built-in 4G LTE hotspot here. And so that allows you to really tune into a lot of different types of media, and there's also an app that you can get for your phone that you can do some control with this thing and really have control over what your kids are watching. And with all of the choices you have here with media, it's great for adults or the kids. When it comes to scoring this system, I'm very impressed for the most part. I did talk about the fact that it'd be nice if there was a tuning knob, and sometimes in the sun there's a little bit of glare on that screen. But outside those things, we've got a lot of feature content. We've got great audio quality. That rear seat entertainment system has just about everything that you can get today. It's all very well packaged, I think. It gets 4 out of 5 stars. The first thing you're going to notice when you look at the new Honda Odyssey is it looks like a Honda Odyssey. Honda has managed to completely restyle this vehicle in such a way that you'd really call it more of an evolution rather than a revolution. Very much like Audi, very much like Volkswagen does with their styling. It's got traditional cues here from the last generation which make it unmistakably an Odyssey. But what they've done here, it's got the new Honda front end design, the grille, sort of that wing grille design that you're starting to see on other Honda vehicles. Now we are on the Elite here, so we've got all the options, which means LED fog lights down here. The headlights themselves are also LED headlights, full LED. You've got the daytime running lamp that's always on during the daytime, and when these light up at night, you get that nice, that blue light glow that you get with LED headlights. One of the things they've done is they've really retained the size of the Odyssey. It's exactly the same size as the last generation. It didn't grow larger and larger, so the wheelbase is the same. The length is about an inch longer than the last generation just because the bumper shapes and things like that, but the overall footprint exactly the same. As we come down the side and start looking at this thing from this angle, this is really where the art becomes apparent. You've got this new floating roof design here that, while it does have cues from the last generation Honda Odyssey, it's completely new, especially when you wrap around the corner with that glass look. But you'll note that there is no seam here in the side anymore for that door track. They've actually moved it up there into the glass, so even though it technically is there, it's invisible from a distance. You just don't see that breaking up the body lines, and that allows for this nice crease to sort of bend down into that rear quarter and give it some artistic flair. And I think it's a nice evolution of the previous design, that it's just a little cleaner, a little bit more artistic and creative. As we come down here, I do want to point out that because we're on the Elite, this does have power doors, both sides, as well as the power rear hatch. That hatch also openable with your foot under the bumper, something that a lot of vehicles are getting now. As we look at the back here, that rear spoiler, that sort of indentation you see there, very much similar to the last generation. It's almost a trademark right now of the Honda Odyssey. It looks very familiar, yet it's fresh with this design back here. Taillights, of course, are LED, and they're tied together with a nice chrome bar there for a nice look. And it's just a premium design back here. And with that low liftover height there on that rear door, it becomes very functional. Under the hood of the Odyssey is the most recent version of Honda's Earth Dreams 3.5-liter V6 engine. For this year, it now has direct fuel injection, which gives it more horsepower now at 280. It's got more torque now at 262 pound-feet. This also now has two available transmissions, a 9-speed automatic in all models up to the Touring and Elite. Here in the Elite, we have a new 10-speed automatic transmission. It's a first for a minivan, and it's a transmission that we're going to talk about here in a minute when we start driving, because it's a big distinction over that 9-speed. Now with this transmission, this is rated by the EPA at 19 mpg city, 28 mpg highway, and 22 mpg combined. So the big question I always ask whenever I get into a new vehicle and start talking to you about it is, how does it go? Well, the nice thing is, even though this thing isn't blindingly fast, it does have a lot of spunk, and this engine is pretty refined for a V6. Sometimes V6 engines can be a little bit rough and noisy, but this one's got a nice refined demeanor. And this new 10-speed automatic transmission, in my opinion, is really the thing to talk about here, because the 9-speed that's available in the rest of the lineup hasn't always been my favorite transmission because, well, its shifting to behavior isn't all that refined. It skips around and it hunts around, and it's not always where you want it. This new 10-speed, I think, really answers the question. It's a lot more refined, and it has a number of features that really make it work quite well. Now, the first thing you might ask is, why all those gears? Well, the reason why is because it allows a bigger band between the lower gear ratio and the top gear ratio, so that helps you save gas in the long run. Also, it helps the engine be at the best RPM it can be for power and efficiency more often during the driving cycle. The thing about this transmission that really makes it unique is the fact that it can skip gears. Most transmissions have to shift 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and so forth. This one can actually skip a number of gears if that's what it takes for the smoothest operation. That said, what I'm finding here is that this transmission behaves very well. I haven't once thought during this week, this thing's got too many gears, or it's too busy, or it just behaves strangely. It's been completely transparent, like I haven't even noticed it, which, well, that's a good thing when it comes to transmissions. If they don't call your attention, that's a good thing. Now, one thing this does have is it has a sequential mode that goes along with these paddle shifters. Yes, paddle shifters in a minivan, but that allows you to shift sequentially as if you were in a high-performance car, even though you're not. So if you like driving a little bit spiritedly, you can do that. And when you're actually using these things, well, this thing will get you a speeding ticket pretty good. So I'm pretty impressed with that. back to Dramamine mode. Well, it's actually D for drive. I'm just kidding. Very impressed with this powertrain. Now, the one area where it didn't quite perform as well as I would have liked is fuel economy. Fuel economy, rated at 22 mpg combined. In my week with it, the best I could muster was 18 mpg combined city and highway, and that's about a 50-50 mix. Now, granted, this is a big heavy minivan, and moving it around can be a little bit taxing on an engine, but still, what's rated, what I actually achieved, quite a big difference. But overall, still pretty impressed with this new powertrain. It does have more power. This transmission is definitely worth stepping up into the 2 top trim gates to get. I highly recommend it in that way. Powertrain gets 4 out of 5 stars. When it comes to ride and handling, this pretty much drives like the last generation Honda Odyssey, and that means it has pretty sharp handling that feels pretty precise, because that's just sort of the Honda way. The rear suspension's been redesigned with a multi-link setup that does enhance the handling just a little bit around town, going over bumps and curves, but it's really about packaging so that we have more space back there. The feeling overall, not quite sports car-like, obviously. We're in a minivan, but it does give you a nice quiet ride, and one that does give you some road feel, so you're not completely isolated from the world out there. So if you do have a driving spirit, if you do like driving and having somewhat of a feel for the road, you're going to get it here. The steering, power steering, has reasonably good feel. The brakes, they're not the most powerful in the world, but they do get this van stopped in a way that's going to give you confidence around town, out on the highway, as well as here in your neighborhood. One thing I did notice in my week with it is that it can get sort of harsh over speed bumps, potholes, things like that. Again, because it's tuned for a little bit of driving feel. That's the compromise that Honda chose. Chassis gets 4 out of 5 stars. When it comes to measuring quality, this is a Honda. What are you going to expect? Something very, very good. And overall, what I found is that's what you've got here. You've got great paint finish, body panel fit and alignment, very good. It feels solid when you're driving down the road. The interior, top of class, like most interiors in Hondas are. It's what I've come to expect. The one thing I did find here in this particular vehicle, however, a few squeaks and rattles driving around town, especially over potholes, speed bumps, things like that. And the mechanical electronics rating here, a little bit lower than I might expect here, because as I found in some other Hondas of late, the electronics, specifically the touchscreen, tends to be a little bit glitchy. It hangs up, sometimes it reboots itself. They've just got something there they haven't quite ironed out yet in their vehicles. Not a bad thing, but something I do need to point out. It's part of the rating here. So quality gets 4 out of 5 stars. All right, my friends, wrapping it up for the 2018 Honda Odyssey minivan. I really do think that with this new redesign, once again, this is top of class. And it's just because you got a lot of feature content here, you've got engineering, you've got quality, you have a lot of things here that really come together in a package that the other minivans out there don't necessarily offer all in one place. Chrysler, Toyota, you could spend almost this much money on those vans, if not more in some cases, but you wouldn't want to, because here at $47,000 and some change, you get virtually everything there is to get. Now, I will tell you that if you go to a Honda dealership, don't expect huge big discounts off of this like you might find at the Chrysler dealership. Honda dealers typically hold on to their price, and of course that's one of the reasons why you also have resale value. So value here I put at 5 stars. When you put that in with everything we've already talked about, we're 4.5 stars for the review. Very good. I'm Sam Haymart for Test Driven TV. I hope you enjoyed the ride. Well, my friends, if you enjoyed the test drive you just saw, I invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. We test drive 1 or 2 vehicles a week, so there's always something new. You can do that by clicking on the big round logo right there, or just see our latest test drive. You can do that by clicking on the big square. Either way, stay tuned.